tonight's sponsors. Tonight's learning is generously sponsored by Chaim Breyer, who's doing this for the Refuah Shelema of his father, Avraham Eli ben Rivka, and Princess Feldman, in honor of her upcoming marriage this Sunday to Jack Dweck, and in honor of her family. Hashem should bless you with a tremendous amount of good health, happiness, parnasah, shalom bayit, with your husband, and should bless your family with everything they need. Give you a lot of nachat from your kids and grandchildren. We also have DJ Acquisitions, part of our Issachar and Zevulun sponsorship, doing this for the Refuah Shelema of Menachem Mendel Ben Sara Batya and Devorah Fega Bat Rezel. This particular class has its own sponsors, our own Issachar and Zevulun sponsorship by H&M Builders, doing it in honor of their grandfather Yosef Ben Yehuda, and we should give an honorable mention to our good friend that also supported us a couple of days ago in Tisha B'Av and came to the private class, Joseph Dornbush, Bezat Hashem Yevalav Bracha V'Atzlacha B'chol Ma'aseh Yadav. And we have another sponsor of this class, special lady who's doing this in honor of her three boys, Yonatan, Michael Ben Stacy, Eliyahu Ben Stacy, Sharone Ben Stacy. So they merit to become big Talmidei Chachamim. And Bezat Hashem also should have a lot of success. And for the Refuah Shelema Menachem Mendel Ben Sara Batya and Devorah Fega Bat Rezel, God bless you all for supporting Torah and for supporting this program, and La'agdil Torah Ve'la'adira. And for all of you that are out there in Facebook world, share and like. Pass the Torah on. You never know what one little nugget of Kedusha can change a person's life. Be part of someone's change. Be part of someone's upgraded life. Please share the class and the Lighthouse. Let's start. Last week, we started with Shabbat, the source of all the blessings. We spoke about the importance of the 7 days of the week, the spiritual energy that's available on that day, and the different places in the 25-hour period that we can get plugged into in order to benefit from this gift that we got from God. We spoke about different tefillot, different prayers, and the spiritual importance of each one. And we also mentioned the 4 seudot of Shabbat and how they build emunah. We shared some stories of emunah, of people that took upon themselves to keep Shabbat, and the incredible transformations in their lives and the outright miracles of the result of that. And overall, last week was a spiritual journey of Shabbat. And it was a spiritual journey with an introspect into Shabbat's prayers, meals, and that 25-hour period of elevated spiritual energy and the formation of the upcoming week. Tonight, I'd like to add another layer to our study of Shabbat. Tonight, we'd like to give an homage to Oneg Shabbat, which is...
What is homage?
This is giving an ode to Shabbat, to Shabbat's delight. Zone in on some customs, some prayers, some songs, and some unique Shabbat items that we do weekly, but tonight we'll get to know them and their hidden meanings. All along the way, connecting it to Chet Adam HaRishon, the first sin of Adam HaRishon, and a special song called Ki Shmira Shabbat. Very, very famous song that we sing at Shabbatot. Let's begin. Shabbat, the source of all the blessings. Did you know that Shabbat Shalom, that both the word Shabbat and Shalom are God's name? Kaf HaChaim states in Orach Chaim, which is a halachic book, and in halakha number 250, number 12, it says of it, it's forbidden to say the word Shabbat in a mikveh. It's forbidden to say the word Shabbat in a bathroom. It's forbidden to say Shabbat where the place is a place of filth. And the reason that he gives is because Shabbat is God's name. You should also know that Shalom is God's name too. So when we say Shabbat Shalom, we're actually saying Hashem's name. There's an interesting story with Haman. You know Haman from Esther, from Megillat Esther. He was coming to talk down on the Jewish nation, and he used an interesting choice of words. In Masechet Megillah, it says over there that he referred to the Jews as Shehi and Pehi. So Masechet Megillah goes into and says that Haman wanted to insult the Jews. He wanted to say that they're lazy. He wanted to say that they're always off. They're always off on Shabbat, they're always off on Passover, they're always off on all the holidays. You know, they never work. They have all these Jewish holidays. But he couldn't bring himself to say Shabbat, because it was God's name. It was so holy. So he said Shehi and Pehi, which stands for Shabbat Hayom, that's Shehi, and Pesach Hayom, that's Pehi. In other words, the name Shabbat is so holy that even Haman couldn't put it on his lips. That he used just the acronym of Shehi and Pehi to insult the Jews. As a matter of fact, it's customary on Shabbat morning not to say Shabbat Shalom. Because Shabbat and Shalom, like we said, is God's name. And when you tell it to a human being, Shabbat Shalom, before praying, it's as if you're using it in the wrong context. So the rabbis tell us that the right thing to do on Shabbat morning is to say Tzafrat Tafta, which in Aramaic means good morning. After you pray, you can say Good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, you can say whatever you like. But it's very interesting how the words Shabbat and Shalom are very guarded. Nowadays, maybe we're less sensitive to it. But back in the days, people were very, very connected to the fact that Shabbat and Shalom were God's name. Something very interesting about Shabbat Shalom. Notice that the day Shabbat and Shalom, which means peace, are connected. Shabbat and Shalom, peace on Shabbat. It's a day where we all seek tranquility and peace, and it's in the name. Last week we learned that they turn off Gehenom for the day. Gehenom goes on vacation for 25 hours while Shabbat is here. And all the ones that are tormented there get a break for 25 hours. However, there's something interesting that you should know, that there's one person on this planet that doesn't want you to have a Shabbat Shalom. There's one person who does not want the ultimate outcome of the 7th day of the week to be your peaceful, calm, relaxed, spiritual day. And that person, or that thing, is the Yetzer Hara, the Satan himself. He does not want you to have a Shabbat Shalom. Why? Why? What does he have against Shabbat? Well, you know, his ultimate goal, him excelling in his position, is making us fail. By making us fail, he's doing his job. He's just doing his job. So he knows what's available on Shabbat. He knows the energy that's available on that day. So he tries to get us to not get plugged in to that energy. The background story to this is very interesting. There was a time in creation that is called Ben Hashmashot, twilight. It was between Friday night and Shabbat night. In other words, it was about to get dark. During that time, 10 things were created. One of those things was the devil himself. He was created during that time. Right before Shabbat comes in, he was created. And you know that when on somebody's birthday, or whenever somebody was born, they have a lot of power. For example, if you ever see somebody having a Jewish birthday, the first thing that you should ask him for is, give me a blessing. Give me a bracha. Because they say a person on his Jewish birthday has spiritual powers. No matter who that person is. He says, oh, it's my Hebrew birthday. Put your head down. Let him put his hand on your head and let him bless you. He's got power on that day. Similarly, the Yetzer Hara, when was he born? Right before Shabbat comes in. So he's got a lot of power come Shabbat afternoon. Because every time that Shabbat... I'm sorry, Erev Shabbat, thank you. Erev Shabbat. Right there on that after, that's when he has the most amount of power. So what does he do? Since he's the strongest on that Friday afternoon, that's when he tries to get us. And if you notice, Friday afternoons, oh my God, the challenges. The wife, the kids, getting ready, not getting ready, running late, things are missing, things are breaking. All of a sudden, people's whole characters bubble up. All a minute before bliss, a minute before Shabbat. Why? Because the Yetzer Hara is the strongest. That's when he was born. Whenever you're born, that's when you have the most strength. And every single week, he tries to spoil Shabbat. And Rabbi Pinto, in his book that talks about the segulot of Shabbat, the virtues of Shabbat, he says, if you find yourself before Shabbat in an argument or angry, you better believe it that the upcoming week you're going to deal with it as well. We were learning last week that the 25-hour period of Shabbat, we divided into the week. The rabbi says that actually the Yetzer Hara, if he can get you in that time frame, you're doomed for next week also. You're also going to have a couple of days or a couple of hours or some time that you're going to have to deal with issues or anger. You have to be very careful during that time. Now, the Yetzer Hara tries to sabotage Shabbat all the time. You'll notice just as the wife is cooking, getting ready, setting everything up, all of a sudden a big bottle of red sauce breaks on the floor. Or a big bottle of oil. Oh, what a mess. This 10 minutes to candle lighting. The kids just got dirty on her Shabbat dress. What are you going to do? Oh, the scenarios that come up in that time period. But you have to understand, that's his last chance to get you before Shabbat. But right about that time, when the Yetzer Hara is at his peak, when he's at his strongest, comes one of the most peaceful Shabbat moments. This famous or world famous Shabbat ceremony, the custom that the ladies light the Shabbat candles, this spiritual prime time for ladies. And the lighting of the candles is very unique. It's one of the few times that you might see any Jewish woman being spiritual. Whether they're secular, whether they're religious, when they light the candles, it seems like almost every Jewish lady just pauses for a minute. She covers her eyes, she covers her hair, and she does the bracha, and it's just such a magical image to see it. But you should know, and for all the ladies listening in on this class, that is one of the best times that a woman could ever get plugged into spiritual energy of Shabbat that day or even her life. The lighting of the candles has a few segulot, few virtues that are very unique. There's a lot more than what I'm about to mention, but I just gave a quick collection to give you an idea of a feeling of what's happening. Some women just they light it and they go. Some ladies will stand there for maybe 5 or 10 minutes and personalize it. Some ladies know that the power of that moment, and they stand there with kavanah, with intentions. The lighting of the candles signify shamor v'zachor. That's the one thing that you should know. That we light the candles because we need to lishmor, to keep, v'zachor, and to remember, it's Shabbat. Look at that candle, one candle is shamor. Look at the other candle, zachor. That's the first kavanah that you can have. It's also the time when the lady accepts the Shabbat. Remember, we spoke about the boys, the men, they go to shul. They do it during Lechadodi, they do it during Amidah, some before, some after. For the ladies, it's when they light the candles. However, there's some halachic differentiations where sometimes it could be a little later, it could be before, but typically a woman accepts the Shabbat when she lights the candles. And that's when she gets her extra neshama, that extra piece of soul that we talked about last week. Lighting the candles has got power. Candles in the house, halachically, are to bring peace in the home. They're shlom bayit. They're a tool for shlom bayit. If you have Shabbat candles lighting in your house, believe it that you got a little turbo boost for shlom bayit. Not only that, it brings peace in the world. Shalom ba'olam. Again, as a Jew, I just accept it blindly. But if somebody else took me off the street and said, hey, light 2 candles, it brings peace in the world. Come on. But as a Jew, I know it and I believe it and I see it. Because even if the Yetzer Hara got you before Shabbat, when you come home and you open the door and you see those candles, something peaceful in the home. It's something that glow, that serenity that you have in that section of the house, and when you come in and your wife is ready, it brings peace. But the rabbis tell us it brings peace in the world. A lady that lights the candles should have a couple of kavanot. One, that her husband should have long life. She should stand there and pray that my husband should have long life. That my children will be Talmidei Chachamim. That they'll grow up to be righteous Jews, Torah learning Jews, Torah following Jews, Torah living Jews. At that moment, a woman should connect to our matriarchs, to Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. Say, hey, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, I'm doing what you're doing. I'm not the weak link in the bunch. I'm keeping it going. Me too. And and there's nothing more beautiful than having your baby girl, your daughter, when she's at 5, 6, 7 years old, even before that, mimic her mom with covering her head and light that one candle and saying the bracha off of that paper that she made in school. It's a special moment in a Jewish home. But you have to know that this is an ancient tradition that is still being kept today. And we're continuing the tradition. However, a small question comes up. Why candles? Couldn't the ladies do something else? Why do we have to light candles for Shabbat? Back in the days, you'll hear all the secular Jews tell you, they didn't have light. That's why they lit the candles. That's what we need the candles for. Now we got electricity. You don't need the candles. But it's not. The Shabbat candles were never to light up the room. That was not their purpose. See, the candles on Shabbat and a bunch of the other things that we're going to discuss tonight are all connected to the first book of Chumash, to the first parasha in Chumash, to the first few pesukim in Chumash. You have to go back to Bereshit. It all started there. It all started with Adam and Chava. Their whole actions in Parashat Bereshit that caused us to change the reality from whatever they were as Adam and Chava to what we are today. And the end result of what happened there with the snake and the tree and Hashem and being kicked out of Gan Eden. One of those punishments, they say there was 39 punishments. 10 for Adam, 10 for Chava, 10 for the snake, and 9 for the land. One of the punishments that we got is death. Death came into the world from Adam and Chava. Before that, we're supposed to live forever, eternal life. So they took out the light. You see, a person is always a candle. They say they always make the resemblance of a person, the person's neshama, to a candle. So a candle, when it goes out, typically means that the neshama is out. That's death. So because they caused the light to come out, or more so, Chava caused it, so every Shabbat, she has to bring back life into the world. She has to bring back light into the world. She has to bring the light back. Whatever she ruined, she's going to fix. And how does she fix? She fixes it with lighting the candles on Shabbat. And also in Havdalah. When Havdalah comes, you give that lighter or that match to your wife and you tell her, please, light the candle for Havdalah. Bring back light into the world. That is her purpose. That's why she lights candles on Shabbat. She's fixing what Chava ruined. It's a tikkun. It's a tikkun to bring back light into the world. You know, last week we spoke about the angels escorting us from shul all the way to the house, and then they come and they go all around the house to see if the beds are made, to see if the candles are lit, to see if everybody changed their clothes. And we said that should all that be checked off, then there's the good angel and the bad angel. The good angel says, oh, the bracha to this home, and should we merit for the same thing to happen again next week? And the bad angel says, amen. And should it be the other way? You know, the house is a mess, candles not lit, people are not wearing the Shabbat clothes. It says, oh, it should be like this again next week. And the good angels say, amen. So we spoke about that. And typically right after we come from shul, after they do their check, we sing to them, Shalom Aleichem. We sing the whole song for those angels. We're standing there singing to angels, Shalom Aleichem. And we spoke about the Kiddush right after that. And we said that looking into the wine restores vision. It's a good time for teshuvah. But here's another question. Why wine? Why are we blessing on wine now? Couldn't it be something else? Water is amazing. I don't know. You know why? It's got such importance, wine, in our culture. If you notice, we do kiddush. It's our own blessing. Borei Pri HaGefen. You don't say Borei Pri HaVodka. Some people think it's more delicious. I say Borei Pri a whiskey or orange juice or anything like that. We don't, you know. Why does Gefen get such importance? Not only that, it gets the prime time state. You know, it's got the best time slot. You come from shul, everybody's standing there. What's the first thing that we present? Kiddush. Why? Well, same thing. Adam and Chava. What did they sin with? Many opinions. That she took the wine, she took the grapes, she squeezed it, she let him drink it, and they got to sin. Some say it was an apple, some say it was fig, some say it's wheat, some say it was etrog. But it seems like we're following the most common opinion of grapes. So, since grapes are the ones that caused the original sin, we're fixing what Adam and Chava did with the original sin. We fixed them with Kiddush. You can see that all of a sudden Shabbat is very connected to the beginning of time. Not just as a day, not just as of what Shabbat has been given to us with Hashem. We see that behind the scenes it also serves a purpose for the tikkun of the world, and it's been going on for 5,777 years. That it's gotten to the point that we're blessing on the Kiddush, but who's really thinking that I am fixing right now the sin of Adam HaRishon? Chet Adam HaRishon. They sinned with the grapes, we're blessing on Kiddush to fix that sin. Now, there's a little bit of a halachic question over here. Halachically, when you have a table filled with food, there's a way to eat. You know, Jews, we have an order of things. If there's bread, mezonot, gefen, or something that was on a tree, etz, or adamah that was raised in the ground, or shehakol. If it's all like in front of me, and I want to eat, and I just want to maybe go for the chocolate first, or maybe I want to go for the apple first, or maybe I want to go for the piece of meat, or maybe for the borekas, or maybe for the bread. What do I go first? Do I go according to what I feel like? The rabbis tell us no. There's an order to things. And the rabbis tell us that the order to food, when you're sitting down before having a meal, you have to respect the food. And how do you respect the food? You follow the guidelines of Maga Esh. What is Maga Esh? It's an acronym for Mem is Motzi Lechem Min Haaretz or Mezonot. Gimel is Gefen. Ayin is Etz. Aleph is Adama. Shin Shakol. In other words, if you have food in front of you, first it has to be Motzi or Mezonot. Or Gefen, that's the second one in line. Grape juice or Kiddush. Next one is Etz, then it's Adama, then it's Shakol.
Why on Shabbat do you do the Kiddush first?
So, to answer Mario's question, why do we bless on Kiddush before the bread? Halachically, it's backwards. We just skipped over bread. And I want you to know that the bread is the king of all the foods. And Gefen is the king of all the drinks. What do I mean? There's a very, very deep secret to bread. It's not for this class. But there's a very, very deep, deep secret to bread. You have to respect the bread. If you take one good lesson about bread, you won't believe the history of it, the reason for it being on this planet, and why we give it such importance. But for tonight's class, for our purpose right here, we should know that it's the king of all foods. It gets the top honors when it comes to food. We consider a seudah only when there's bread on the table. Then it's considered a meal. Otherwise, it's like, meal, or maybe a snack. But you could eat as much meat as you want, or you could eat as much rice as you want, and you can eat as much as vegetables as you want. If there's no bread on the table, it's not considered a seudah. Now, bread is the king of all foods. Wine is the king of all drinks, which means when you eat bread, well, when you say Motzi Lechem Min Haaretz, it covers everything. You don't have to say another blessing for anything else. If you do Borei Pri Gefen and drink grape juice or wine, you don't have to bless on any other drink. They are poter, all of them. So the original question, here comes Shabbat, we got the king of all foods on the table, why am I holding the cup in my hand first? Well, for us, you should know that we sanctify the day with Kiddush. If you ever see all our holidays, before we get started, the way we bless the day with Kiddush. And that on Shabbat, it happens in all the meals. And we sanctify the day in Kiddush. And also, when Shabbat finishes, we also sanctify the end of the holiday in Havdalah with the Kiddush as well. So it's something that's very unique. But during that time, we have the bread on the table. So, what do we do with the bread? Because of its honor, the honor of the bread, in order not to embarrass the bread, what do? We cover it. We cover the bread. Because the bread signifies the beginning of the meal. The Kiddush signifies the beginning of the blessing of the day. Now, there's a deeper secret over here. We said that because of Maga Esh, the Kiddush being first, we covered the bread in order not to embarrass the bread, in order to honor the bread. Like, don't look, we're doing Kiddush. In a minute we'll get to you. Right? Out of respect for the bread. However, the bread that's covered is Lechem Mishneh. Lechem Mishneh, we got 2 Chalot. Another question. Why 2? Last week's class, we said Well, 2 corresponding for each day of the week. On Friday night, the 2 chalot are for Sunday and Monday's parnasa. Shabbat morning, Tuesday and Wednesday parnasa. The ones from Seudah Shlishit, Thursdays and Fridays parnasa. We said, each one we're connecting it to the segula of that chalam. However, there's a deeper secret here too. Why we have lechem mishneh on the table, 2 loaves of bread on the table, and why we cover it. And it's actually connected to the man, to the heavenly bread that came from the heavens. Manna. You see, when that soul food, that angelic sustenance came from the sky, and the Jewish people were collecting it on a daily basis, amen. How did it go? It had a first layer on the bottom, then it came on top of that layer, and then it was covered again. It was covered from the bottom and from the top. You go to any Jewish home, you'll see that they have the bread plate, and then they have the bread covering. We're mimicking the man, the lechem mishneh. But the lechem mishneh, that still doesn't explain why we have 2. See, the man was also the bread of emunah. You had to have faith. Because what happened on Friday? Moshe instructed the Jewish people, take double. Because on Shabbat, there will not be. So you had to believe that something that's happening every day is not going to happen, and you have to take a double portion in order to get it for Shabbat. It was emunah food. I have to give a little bit of a Spanish chidush here for the Latins in the room. How do you say, okay, so the man came down every day, right? On Friday, they had to take twice. They had to take a double portion. Why? Because on Shabbat, it wasn't going to come down. How do you say Friday in Spanish?
Viernes.
Viernes. You know what's called Viernes? Ma'am Loa says because Viernes, look, it's a miracle. You're going to have food on Friday double for Shabbat. That, when I heard it, I thought it was amazing. Because Ma'am Loa says, Rabbi Yaakov Kuli, he says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put in every language a little bit of a chidush. So anyway, everyone can connect to the Torah, even in Spanish. Well, I mean, that one really was very interesting, because that's what it is. On Shabbat, when they woke up, what did they think? Wow, look, it's a miracle. It didn't spoil, no worms. So we cover the bread for that. I'll plug that in so you guys can have a chidush this Friday. And as a matter of fact, there's a song, a very famous song of Ki Yeshmera Shabbat. You guys know that song? Ki Yeshmera Shabbat El Yishmereni. You guys know that one?
That sounds Sephardic.
It is. I got to represent for my Sephardim. So look what it says over here. On the second line to this song, something so interesting. It says, Bo emtzea tamid noach lenamshi. It talks about Shabbat. I'm always going to find comfort on that day. Hidne ledor rishon natan kedoshi. To the first generation that Hashem gave to them. What did He give to that first generation? He's talking about the first generation in the desert, the one that came from Yetziat Mitzrayim. Mofet betet lechem mishne bashishi. He says He gave them a miracle. He was giving them bread, lechem mishneh. There's that word I was looking for. What's lechem mishneh? That double portion, 2 breads. Why is it on the table? Lechem mishneh bashishi. It's to remind us that on Fridays, Hashem gave them double. We have 2 halot on the table, to remind us that a Kadosh Baruch Hu on Friday gave us 2 loaves of bread, one for Friday night and one for Shabbat.
What's the definition of Mishnah?
Secondary. Secondary. And that's why he says over there, Kacha bechol shishi yachpid mezoni. What does that mean? That's why on every Friday, he's going to double up my mezoni, my sustenance, but it's also your parnasa. This is something very, very mechazek for the people that keep Shabbat. You'll see that there's going to be times that on Friday, when you're working half a day, all of a sudden you make a double portion. There's many, many, many times when I'm saying to myself, how am I going to leave at 2:30? The day just started, the hustle and bustle of the day just started to go. Things started moving at 1:30. I have to be out in an hour. And you see all the people around you, everybody's like shaking and baking, and you're like, Shabbat, what am I going to do? And then all of a sudden you say, you know what? Have emunah. Anachnu ma'aminim, bnei ma'aminim. We're the believers, the son of believers. And wouldn't you know it? Hashem, sometimes, if not all the times, on Friday would give you such a big boost that in 1 hour you're making 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 days worth. And the first thing that comes to my mind when that happens, Kacha bechol shishi yachpid mezoni. Don't get me started, that's one of my favorite songs. So, okay, we have the bread on the table. Okay, good, the man. Another question. What's the thing with the salt on the table? In my house, when there's no salt, that's when the show starts. All the gestures, all the things. 1 word, 2 syllables. What's the thing with salt on the table? Why is it so important to have salt on the table? Well, actually I mentioned this also in our Tisha B'Av lesson, which is very interesting. The reason why we have salt on the Shabbat table is because of Brit Melach, the covenant of the salt. What is the covenant of the salt? Well, when Hashem created the world, He separated the waters. Some waters stayed on this planet, some waters went into space. The waters that went into space are not close to God. The waters that are here are very far away from God. So the waters that are here started to cry and started to ask Hashem to bring him back up. We want to be close to you. Why are we here? They started to beg, Hashem, please, don't separate us. Leave us together. Let us be with you upstairs. We want to be in the heavens. They're called the crying waters, the waters that are here. So Hashem told him, you have to stay here, but I'm going to honor you that every time that, he said that there will be one day, a time, when I'm going to have a special building called Bet HaMikdash. And in this place, they're going to bring korbanot, sacrifices, to me. And every korban that they bring, we're going to have to put salt on top of it. There's not going to be one korban that doesn't have salt on top. And that's going to be your way of coming back to me in the heavens. Why? Because we know salt comes from where? From the ocean. They were appeased by it. And ever since then, we have a covenant with the salt, that every time that we eat, or every time that we bring a korban, or every time that we have a mizbech, we have to have salt. So if some of you might know this, or some of you might not know this, but a person's table in the house is called a mizbech. It's an altar. What do we bring on the altar? Salt. It's a must. That's why a Jewish table cannot be without salt. One of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life is when I walked into one of my rabbi's homes, and I saw it was a Tuesday. It was a Tuesday. But the table was empty. There was nothing there. It had long runner, and right at the edge of the long runner, a beautiful salt and pepper shaker. I'm sorry, not just a salt shaker. And I was just like, Brit Melach. So it was so beautiful to see that the rabbis tapped into this. He's connected to Brit Melach. This is why we must have salt on the table, amongst other reasons. I just wanted to highlight one. You know, they say, you got me started with this song. It says over there that this, we're talking about the Shabbat table. So, it says over here, Hayom mechubadhu yom ta'anugim. This is a very respectable day, a day of delights and enjoyment. Lechem ve'yain tov, bread and good wine, basar ve'dagim, meat and fish. The rabbi is telling us this is a day that you have to eat fish, you have to eat meat, you got to drink wine, you got to eat bread. It's amazing that every Shabbat we partake in 3 very large meals. For some of us, even a 4th large meal. We'll all merit to do Sudat Menavim Marka. And you see that he says there, Hasemechim bohem simcha masigim. And the ones that are happy in it, happiness they will gain. Ki yom semachot hu. Because it's a day of simcha, utesamecheni. And you're going to make me happy. The rabbi is telling us, eat, enjoy, and be happy. It's a mitzvah. It's not just physically eating and getting full. Each time we're grabbing something, we are fixing worlds. Here's the salt. We're bringing it back to Hashem, crying waters. What? Here's the kiddush, the grapes of Adam and Chava. We're fixing that sin. What? Lechem, the man from the desert. What? What are all these things? We're just thinking that we're stuffing our face. But if you know that you're sitting down, it's on a much, 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 much higher spiritual level, the Shabbat meals. So again, you can see that everything on the table has deep meanings. Kiddush, bread, the fish, the meat, the salt on the table. Before, I want to talk a little bit more about the table being a mizbech, but I have a story to tell. You have to hear this story. There was once a lady that was adopted during the Holocaust at a very, very young age, maybe 3 or 4 years old. Just to show you the power of the Shabbat food. And, she was given up by her family, because obviously her family wanted to save her. She was a baby. Her parents probably died in the concentration camps. She never got to meet them. She never even knew, actually. She was adopted. At the age of 40, living as a Gentile, she gets invited to her friend's house for Shabbat dinner. And as she opens up the door, a smell hits her nose. And it triggered something in her mind. And she didn't know. She got the chills. Her mind was overworking, trying to go back in files. Like, what is this smell? What is this connected to? And she's going back and back and back, and she can't figure it out. And she was just trying to keep composed of, being, she's invited as a guest. But the entire night, the smell is just right in her nostrils. Towards the end of the night, she says, something is wrong with me. Something is wrong with me. Ever since I walked in through that door, I've been so laser focused on that smell of what you have in that pot. You have to tell me what it is. She's like, oh, this is chulent. It's chulent. It's what we eat. It's a Jewish custom. Every Jewish home usually has a chulent that they eat on Shabbat afternoon. All of a sudden, the wheel started to turn, and she had a flashing image of her at 3 years old at her home with her mom, giving her biological mom, giving her a spoon of cholent. And she remembered the smell. It was identical to her mom's. Anyways, that little whiff of cholent turned out to be a journey for that woman, where she found out that she was adopted. She found out that she was actually Jewish. And she found out and was able to find the roots of where her parents were and how they died in a concentration camp. And later on, she went back to the original religion and she converted, quote unquote, to being a Jew from taking a sniff of cholent while she was invited as a guest.
I'm smelling the cholent now.
Are you?
It's that.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Shabbat food. You know, we're talking about the food, but you should know, sitting on that table, sitting on that Shabbat table, sitting on that mizbeach, it's not a simple thing. You know, we were just crying 2 days ago and trying to connect to that energy of not having the mizbeach, not having the Bet HaMikdash. Yet I'm telling you right now that you have one in your home. Your Shabbat table is a mizbeach. Your table is a mizbeach. It's an altar. If that's the case, what do? Well, the rabbis tell us, when you're sitting on that table, it's an eit ratzon. It's an auspicious time to pray, to connect. It's like going to shul. You find yourself on a Shabbat table, think like you're sitting in the shul. Take a minute. Pray. Pray on that table. Pray on the Shabbat table. Why not? It's a mizbeach. It's your private mizbeach. They say a person that sits on a Shabbat table, it prolongs his life. Ma'arich yamim. There's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. Some of you might have heard it. It's in the 3rd chapter. It's the 3rd Mishnah. It says, Rabbi Shimon Omer, 3 people that sat together and had a meal and did not share divrei Torah. As if they ate from a mizbeach, from an altar of dead bodies. Shneimar, as it is said in Yeshaya, Ki kol shulchanot mal'u ki tse'a beli makom. He cited that from Yeshaya Chavchet. In other words, Shabbat table, you're sitting there, you're eating. If you missed out on the opportunity to say something about Parashat Shavua, something about Judaism, Torah, Halakha, if you missed the opportunity, it's as if you were eating off of an altar of dead carcasses. You know, I always find these comments to be so heavy, but I think the rabbis say it in order to give importance to it throughout the ages. I myself discovered the beauty of Divrei Torah on the table very early on in my teshuvah, because the whole week I was in shul, I'm with the rabbi, I'm learning chidush over here, chidush over there, I'm listening on my headphones, I'm listening to a lecture by Rabbi Mansour, and another lecture by Rabbi David Shushan, and another lecture by Rav Meir Eliyahu. And when I come on Friday night, I look at my wife and I tell her, do I have a story to tell you? You know, my wife went to Jewish school, knows Parashat Shavua, but she doesn't know this chidush. And it just started something unbelievable, because some of the chidushim are absolute jaw droppers. I couldn't wait to come to the table and enlighten my family with what I learned for the week. And just as I was excited to hear those divrei Torah, you know what? So were they. They're like, wow. You totally opened it up for me from that first grade, second grade, high school type of understanding that I have of Parashat Shavua. Later on, Baruch Hashem, when I became a father, there is nothing sweeter, nothing more beautiful than kids and Divrei Torah. Ask a 3-year-old, 4-year-old to tell you something about the Parsha.
My grandchildren.
Oh, do you not melt?
Yes.
Do you not melt? It's beautiful. It's a gift. It's something that is necessary in a Jewish home. It gives a Jewish home life. Most of the times the adults will give profound nuances on the weekly Torah portion that actually as an adult you can appreciate and maybe internalize and say, you know what, great insight to life, great insight on the Parsha, great insight on the Torah. I can see how I can use this in my everyday. If your kids are not there, encourage them. Go to the candy store, get the most expensive chocolate, the biggest one, the one with the best picture on it, and put it right on the table. As your wife is putting on the 10 salads for Shabbat, take a bowl and fill it up with all the candies that they want, the candies that have toys on them too. And just put it in the middle of the table. They'll be in shock. Like, whoa, what's that doing on the table? And they start asking, what is that? What's that hand with the lollipop? And what is that? Does that chocolate have raisins in it? Like, yep. Who's that for? That's for you. And that's for you on one condition. That you give me a beautiful chidush on the Parsha. And you can choose anything that you want. They start going left and right to aunts and uncles and fathers. Can you tell me a chidush? Can you tell me a chidush? And you better believe that the following week they're ready for it also. You have to engage the kids in it. It's a beautiful thing, divrei Torah on the table. In other words, the rabbis are telling us, if you don't have divrei Torah on the table, it's like it's like an altar of dead carcasses. I'm going to tell you, I don't need that to get divrei Torah on the table. As an adult, you can find beautiful chidushim on the Torah, whether you read it or if you want a rabbi to pass it on to you. And for the kids, God bless Jewish schools and Jewish school teachers, how they make it easy when the kids come home with a base for the Parsha of the week, and then you just have to press the salt and pepper on it. Maybe put a little sprinkles on top, and you feel like you did your part of Veshinantam Nevanecha V'dibarta Bam. You know, since we're sitting on the table, on this altar, I want to tell you some things that you can activate. They're called segulot. Segulot are virtues, things that are available during that time. Should you be the right vessel, you can activate it. Think about it. Let's say you're walking the straight and narrow in Hashem, with Hashem. Yeah, you're starting to be a good Jew. You're doing mitzvot, you're keeping Torah. Yes. Hashem says, you know, I got a few things for you that you can pick up along the way. They're called segulot. Not everybody gets to merit them. Certain people can do them, and they get the rewards for them. Listen to these segulot. I heard this recently. Again, it's aligned with Chet Adam Arishon. Remember, they said that they sinned, you know, the classic thing that you see Adam and Eve, what are they biting into? An apple, right? Biting into an apple, another version of what they sinned with. So recently I heard of this special segula where you go to where you get 2 apples. In other words, you go to Publix and you do the classic Lichvot Shabbat. Last week we spoke about the importance of going around the entire week and saying Lichvot Shabbat, Lichvot Shabbat, Lichvot Shabbat. So the next time you find yourself in a supermarket, grab 2 apples, the most beautiful ones that are there. Pick them up and say Lichvot Shabbat. Then come to the table, Shabbat table, get a nice special plate for it, set those 2 apples right in the middle of the table, and start your meal. Once the meal is all done and the table is cleared, and the wife brings out the fruits and the dessert or whatever it is, the rabbis tell us something very, very unique. It says, whatever ruined or whatever got tainted is exactly what's going to fix. So if the apple, you know, because for those that have a little bit more of a kavanah, before each meal they say Hada saudata de chakal tapuchin. You know, it's a zohar. It says already that this is the meal of the special orchard, apple orchard or apple fields. So they say on that particular sauda, which one is the sauda of chakal tapuchin? It's Friday night. So bring those tapuchim to the table because it's the seudah of those apples. And he says, take those 2 apples, put them in your hands, and do poteach et yadecha umasbi'a lechol charatzon. Grab one, start eating it. What's the secret over here? He says if you take the word poteach, pei taf chet, it's actually tapuach, apple. So he says the apple that ruined is the apple that's going to fix. And you have a big segula to do. Poteach et yadecha masbi'a lechol charatzon. That apple, parnasa. Huh? Yeah. No. I mean, this is...
We're the only lucky ones.
Yeah. No, it's a segula.
We're the only complicated ones.
We spoke about the bread and how you have to respect the bread. I'll just give you a couple of tips without getting too deep into it. Don't pass water over the bread. If you have a challah, don't lean a book on it or something on it. Respect the bread. They say the crumbs have a segula for aniyut. A person who doesn't pay attention to the crumbs, God forbid, can become a poor person from the crumbs of the bread. In other words, there's some people that clean the table and they do with their hands like this, the crumbs into the hands. Don't do that. That's a bad sign to become poor. Put it into a plate, put it into a napkin, never put crumbs into your hand. Or to the floor, disrespecting the crumbs. They say that there's rabbis that actually take special silver spoons and they pick up the crumbs and they eat them like it's a delicacy because they know the value of bread, the secret of the bread, and how they respect the bread. So remember on the bread to respect it and how it is on the table, not to pass things over it, and not to take things and just throw the crumbs everywhere. It's a segula la'aniyut. Says, Kol mi she'ochel dag, beyom dag, nitzal midag. Says whoever eats dag, fish, beyom dag, on the day of dag. What's the day of dag? Dalet and Gimel. Dalet is 4, Gimel is 3. Dag, 4 and 3 is 7. Whoever eats dag, beyom dag, on the 7th day, nitzal, it gets saved from dag. What's dag? It's dine gehenom. Eating fish on Shabbat saves you from the afflictions of hell. Dine gehenom. Dalet Gimel. Misho ochel dag, beyom dag, nitzal midag. Very, very famous line.
Does it matter what kind of fish?
Any fish.
Tuna fish?
Yeah, of course. What do you think of Seudah Shlishit? Why are we makpidim Seudah Shlishit to eat fish? Or at least one time, one of the meals. For us, in the Moroccan home, it's not a Shabbat without the spicy Moroccan fish to start. The song, Ki Yesh Mera Shabbat. Sing it, it brings parnasah. The rabbis tell us it's a song that brings parnasah throughout the week.
Where's the source for that?
The source for that, Rabbi Pinto, that sourced it from a book that I don't have on me now, but I'll give it to you. He actually, there's another song that I forgot the name of it, that he said that it's also a big song for parnasah during the week. Ki Yesh Mera Shabbat. Kiddush. When you have your Kiddush, look into the Kiddush and look at your forehead in the Kiddush. Why? Because the word for forehead in Hebrew is metzach. And metzach, when you look at it in the Kiddush, equals hatzlacha. So when you see your forehead in the Kiddush, it's a good segula for success. Because it's the same gematria. If you want, we'll do it together. Metzach, mem, tzadik, chet. The mem gets replaced with a lamed and 2 hays. Hatzlacha equals metzach. It's also good to look for a poor person. For a poor person to have food for Shabbat. When you see a guy coming on a Monday or Tuesday to shul and he's asking for tzedakah, take out a 20, put it in his hand and say, Yichavot Shabbat. Activate that. Let him know that you're giving him this 20, not so you can go right now to the store. Right? I'm giving it to you so you can have something for Shabbat. There's a special Zohar that we learned about 3 or 4 months ago that says anyone who makes sure that a poor man has food for Shabbat first merits to have all his prayers answered. the beauty of Shabbat. I know we just took some time to talk about the beauty of Shabbat. I just want to take just a couple of minutes to speak to those that are struggling with Shabbat. It's very, very important that we speak to this group of people because they're out there and all we need is to fill them in on the beauty of Shabbat in order to understand what we're talking about. You see, Shabbat, Shavat, Shvat, Teshuvah, it comes from the same source. Shabbat is to come back, or Teshuvah. Shabbat lets your mind, body, and soul to come back to what feels the most like what a real Jew's life is supposed to be. However, for those that are struggling with finding the Kedusha for that day, having a hard time finding the most beautiful day in the world or of history as part of their life, there's one way to get there. There is only one way to get there, to keeping Shabbat. Slow and steady wins the race. Little by little. Teshuvah takes time. You need desire and you need willpower. You need ratzon. And in order for your teshuvah to be successful, the rabbis tell us, there's a crash and burn syndrome. In other words, there's some people, okay, I keep Shabbat, that's it. Okay, I'm all in. It takes maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 weeks before they crash. It's too much. Especially if you're coming in cold turkey. Slow and steady wins the race. One little thing at a time. Keep just Friday night. Just Friday night. You know, start Shabbat, bring it in on time, go to shul, have the meal, go to sleep. That's it. Then take it to the next level. Shabbat, I'm sorry, Leil Shabbat and Shabbat morning. You wake up in the morning, you're having breakfast, I'm still keeping it. You're able to do that for a week or 2 or 3 or 4, a month or 2, or for as long as it takes, step it up a notch. Now, Friday night, I go to shul, I eat, I go to sleep, I wake up, I go to shul again, I'm going to pray, I'm going to eat again. There you go, 2/3 out of the way. 2/3 of Shabbat is already there. You're already there. And all you did is eat and sleep. And I had the best time. Then you know what, after a while, all right, it's winter time, Shabbat finishes 5:30, I'm going all the way. I'm going all the way. 5:30, Shabbat comes out, you did it. Took you 7, 8 months, took you a year, it took you a year and a half, but you did it. Slow and steady wins the race. You have these people that are fighting their desires. You know, some people are addicted to cigarettes. I get it, I understand. How does he keep Shabbat? He's on automatic. His mind has these neural paths that are telling him every 15 minutes you got to have something in your finger and you got to spend another 10 minutes going like this and lighting and the whole culture of it. You want to smoke with me? You got to light. You want to smoke with me? You want to come with me? Let's go. I understand it. You become programmed. How do you turn that off for 25 hours? I mean, it's coming up every 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes. You're like jonesing for it. Don't smoke 20 cigarettes. Next Shabbat, smoke 19. That's your teshuvah. You go to Hashem, look, I'm smoking on Shabbat, but this Shabbat, I did it 19. You know what that shows? It shows one step towards Hashem. The following week, 15. Before you know it, the guy can't light a cigarette anymore. He can't. Why? He took the baby steps. One little step, he got desensitized. So we got to make him feel again. Teshuvah is step by step, little by little. You could also say, you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to the mall. Shabbat, there's a sale. I'm buying those jeans. There's no way I'm missing that, okay? But Friday night I'm not driving. And you do the same thing, Friday night and Shabbat morning. You know what? Saturday afternoon, I have to go to the park. That's when I play my game. I have to go with my girlfriends to go shop. Not a problem. Challenge yourself. Challenge yourself with the car. Challenge yourself with TV. Challenge yourself with the phone. Oh my God, the phone. It's worse than a cigarette. I have to know what's going on everywhere all the time. What do you mean? Somebody might have posted something. Maybe they had ice cream.
Better miss the Lighthouse class.
How could they miss a moment in somebody else's life? The telephone. Challenge yourself. Just no Friday night. Just not Friday night. Just not Shabbat morning. And get there. Baby steps. These baby steps that I'm talking about, they turn into giant spiritual leaps. For those that are struggling with Shabbat, I say one thing. Have a plan for Shabbat. Have a plan. Don't walk into it winging it. Find out, what am I doing? Okay, what am I doing? What am I doing Friday night? What am I doing Saturday morning? What am I doing Saturday afternoon? What am I doing Saturday late afternoon? That's that red zone dangerous time. Where am I going? Who am I seeing? Where am I eating? Keep in mind that boredom is the enemy on Shabbat. You have to find a way to stimulate yourself on Shabbat. For me, it's easy. I'll give you an example. I go to shul, I eat, I go to sleep, great. I wake up in the morning, I go to shul, I eat, I go to sleep, great. Then I go to shul again, I study a little bit, I sing a little bit in shul, there comes mincha, it's over. Easy for me. But some people can't connect yet to that shul and meal yet. So what happens? They have these blocks of time, 4 hours, 5 hours. What am I going to do? Find something. Have a friend that you can talk to for 4 or 5 hours. Be right next to you. A friend that keeps Shabbat. Have someone that keeps Shabbat and will keep you company. Find a book that you'll be connected to for the Shabbat. Find something that will get you out of that mind frame that you have to do what you do during the week. Give yourself a plan. Give yourself a plan for Shabbat. In conclusion, get to know Shabbat. Tap into this holy day. Tap into this gift Hashem has given us. This gift since the beginning of time. Link yourself back to your roots, to your heritage, through Shabbat. Shabbat will make your life better. Not even on a spiritual level. Try disconnecting yourself from the world for a day. You'll love it. Try not to watch TV, drive, or be on your phone for a day without going to shul, without Shabbat, without everything that I spoke about. In my eyes, that's a bonus. Don't do that. Challenge yourself to just be you for one day without falling for Yetzer Hara's number one plan to just keep you busy so you can't think. When's the last time you shut off for a day to think? Who am I? What I like? What I don't like? You're just being programmed what to like. You're just being programmed what to think. Give yourself a chance to be you. Give yourself a chance to be an original, a one of a kind, rather than the cookie cutter of what everyone wants you to be. Shabbat gives you that. Shabbat gives you that. You just have to do it. You have to break yourself. Break yourself. You know, this overdrive mentality and this ADD generation is a sickness. You have a chance to get out of it. A chance to get out of it and cash in large. You have a chance to connect to a beautiful new version of yourself, the real version of yourself, and plug into segulot, mitzvot, health, happiness, parnasa, family time, relaxing time, healing time. Hashem gave it to you as a gift. I bet you if Oprah went on TV 10 years ago and said, aha moment, I discovered the day that heals you, that gives you livelihood, that takes care of all your problems. Everyone, start keeping the Sabbath. What a movement. What a movement it would be. However, us, it's who we are. It's who we are. It's what's available to us. Why are we not tapping into it? So for all those that are struggling with it, I'm telling you, Ta'amu u'u ki tov Hashem. Taste it, and you will see that God is good. Get to know Shabbat's delight. Get to know Oneg Shabbat. שהשם יברך אתכם וישמח אתכם, שיתו ליבכם לחילה, פסגו אמונותם, למען תספרו לדור אחרון.